In 40 seconds, your life is going to split into two parts, before the crash and after it. This is you, Seat 4A, small charter plane, 30,000 feet above the Amazon. Below, nothing but green. 9 million square kilometers of wild, unbroken wilderness. From up here, it almost looks peaceful. It isn't. Then something changes. The engine note shifts. A sound that doesn't belong. The crack comes first. Then the groan. Then, boom. The left wing erupts into a fireball. The plane tilts. Hard. Your stomach slams into your throat. Luggage explodes from the overhead compartments. Someone screams. The pilot's voice cracks once over the intercom. Then, nothing. The nose tips toward the green ocean below. And you understand, with horrible clarity, you are going down. But here's what nobody tells you. Surviving the crash is the easy part. The next 40 seconds are pure chaos. The plane is spinning. Sky, jungle, sky, jungle. The wind is so loud you can't hear your own voice. You're gripping the armrest so hard your knuckles go white. The altitude drops with sickening speed. Here's what you need to know. And stay with me because this could save your life. Most plane crash survivors don't make it because they were lucky. They make it because of what they do in the first few seconds after impact. Crash investigators call it the golden 13 seconds. The window just before and after impact, when your actions matter more than anything else. So you do what every survival expert recommends. You brace, feet flat on the floor, head down, arms crossed over your chest. You locate the nearest exit, 2 rows behind you on the right. You make one deal with yourself. Get to that door. The trees are close now, terrifyingly close. The green is rushing up to meet you. Then, impact. The canopy shreds the fuselage like paper. You're thrown forward. Then, sideways. Something slams your shoulder. The world goes white. The sound cuts out. And then, quiet. You open your eyes. You're hanging sideways, still strapped to your seat. Through a gap in the torn metal, the jungle floor may be 12 feet below. The plane is wedged in the canopy, tangled in vines and branches 50 feet above the ground. You are alive. Shoulder throbbing, ears ringing, forehead bleeding. But alive, for now. The jungle already knows you're here, and it doesn't care that you survived. The first thing that hits you isn't the pain, it's the sound. The jungle is screaming, birds exploding from the canopy, insects, a wall of noise so thick it feels physical. The groan of the crumpled fuselage. Somewhere below, the slow drip of water. Then the heat hits. It wraps around you like a wet fist. 80 to 100% humidity. The air doesn't feel like air. It feels like breathing through a hot, soaked cloth. You're drenched in sweat within seconds. You check yourself. Shoulder bruised, not broken. Cut on the forehead, shallow. Legs work. Hands work. You're hurt, but functional. Good, because now the real problem begins. And it has nothing to do with the crash. Here's what most people get completely wrong about the Amazon. They think the biggest threat is a jaguar, an anaconda, piranhas. Hollywood has spent decades lying to you about this jungle, and that lie could get you killed. The things that will actually finish you out here are smaller, quieter, more patient. And the first one is already working on you. Dehydration. Insane, right? You're surrounded by one of the wettest places on Earth. 3 meters of rainfall a year. Water everywhere. And yet dehydration kills jungle survivors faster than almost anything else. Here's why. In 100% humidity, your sweat doesn't evaporate. It just sits on your skin. Your body keeps burning through fluid, without giving you any of the cooling benefit. You're losing water every minute without feeling it. Within 6 hours of the crash, you're already in danger. You need water, now. But that's where the next 3 contaminated water. Water is everywhere. Almost none of it is safe. Amazon rivers carry leptospirosis, a bacteria that infects through the skin. Giardia, cholera. You might drink and feel fine for a day. Then the fever hits. Then the vomiting. Then you can't stand up. Out here, getting sick isn't an inconvenience. It's a death sentence. Insects and infection. You've been on the jungle floor less than an hour. You can already feel them. Mosquitoes, thick, relentless clouds that don't stop. The Amazon holds over 3,000 species, among them carriers of malaria, dengue, yellow fever, and Zika. One bite, probably nothing, but hundreds of bites over days, on a weakened, malnourished body? Catastrophic. And it doesn't stop at mosquitoes. Botfly larvae burrow under the skin. Fire ants cause infections that last weeks. Bullet ants, named because their sting reportedly feels like a gunshot, live in the leaf litter directly beneath your feet. You look down at your bare ankles. Big mistake. But the real danger still hasn't shown itself. In the Amazon, the things that kill you are the ones you never see coming. Venomous snakes. Over 250 species of snake in the Amazon basin. Most are harmless, but the ones that aren't, the fer de lance, the bushmaster, the coral snake, are masters of invisibility. They don't rattle. They don't warn you. They are the exact color of the ground you're walking on, and they strike before you ever see them. Their venom causes tissue death, internal bleeding, cardiac arrest. The jungle floor is their territory. Right now, you're trespassing. And then, the rain. Within 2 hours of the crash, the sky collapses. This isn't rain. This is a wall of water. The jungle disappears behind a gray curtain. Solid, roaring, impenetrable. It swallows the trees, the wreckage, the ground beneath your feet. The canopy catches most of it, but where it breaks through, it falls in cascades, hammering the leaves, drumming against the fuse. The sharp green smell of wet earth rises around you. Within minutes, the ground is ankle deep. Your clothes are soaked through to the skin. The temperature drops, but not in any way that helps. It's the cold that clings, the kind that locks into your joints and won't let go. Look around you. Alone. Injured. Soaking wet. 3 hours of daylight left, and surrounded by one of the most hostile ecosystems on Earth. So, what do you actually do? This is where the story changes. This is where knowledge stops being interesting and starts being the only thing standing between you and a body that no one ever finds. Most survivors make their fatal mistake in the first hour. Don't be one of them, because one wrong decision right now could kill you. The first thing you need to do goes against every screaming instinct inside you right now. Every nerve in your body wants to move, to run, to do anything. But survival experts have a rule, and it might be the single most important thing you hear today. The stop rule. S. Stop. Sit down. Right now. Don't move. T. Think. What do you have? What are the real threats? What are the priorities? O. Observe. Water sources. Shelter material. Signaling options. What's around you? P. Plan. Make a decision. Then work it systematically. Panic doesn't just feel bad. Panic kills. It makes people abandon crash sites and get lost in jungle so dense you can walk in circles for days without realizing it. It makes people drink contaminated water. It burns through your calories and your fluids until you collapse. Your crash site is your greatest asset. Stay close to it. Rescue teams search the last known flight path first. The wreckage is visible from above. Or it should be. You don't leave. Not for the first 24 to 48 hours. Now, priorities. In survival, the hierarchy never changes. Shelter, water, fire, food. Never food first. You can survive 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and it's over. Right now, your survival chances are roughly 50%. What you do in the next 2 hours decides which side you land on. Building shelter. Get off the ground. The jungle floor is wet, infected, and deadly at night. You gather large palm fronds and banana leaves. They're everywhere. You find a 5-foot branch, prop it against the fuselage. Your ridgepole. You layer the leaves over it, overlapping like roof tiles, thickest at the top. It won't keep everything out. But it breaks the rain, traps body heat, lifts you off the ground. If any section of the cabin is still intact, use it. A sealed fuselage section is the best shelter in the jungle. It's dry, it blocks wind, and it's visible from the air. Collecting water. The rain that nearly killed you? Now it saves you. You gather every container from the wreckage. Bottles, a thermos, a hollowed bamboo section. You place them in the open where the rain falls clean, not filtered through leaves, not touched by soil or rivers. Rainwater collected this way is safe. In a single Amazon storm, you can fill enough to last 2 days. You also check the broad, waxy leaves around you. Many pool water in their cups. Some hollow bamboo stems hold fresh water internally. You puncture the segment and drink directly. What you do not do, no matter how desperate you get, is drink from a river or standing water without treatment. If you have a metal container and any fire source, you boil for at least 1 minute. If you can't, you wait for rain. Signaling. Most people forget this. Don't. You pull reflective surfaces from the wreckage, window panels, chrome seat trim, anything that catches light. You create a signal board and lay it in the most open clearing you can find. On a clear day, a mirror flash is visible from 10 miles in the air. Then you look for the emergency locator transmitter. The ELT, small orange or yellow box, usually in the tail section. On impact, it may have activated automatically. If it's transmitting, rescue teams already have a rough fix on your position. You find it in the debris. The casing is cracked, but the light is blinking. Slow, steady, orange. It's working. For the first time since the engine exploded, something shifts in your chest. Not safety, not comfort. Something close to hope. You make it through the first night. It is the longest night of your life. The jungle after dark is an entirely different world. The birds go silent. Something else fills the darkness. The deep, resonant croaking of frogs somewhere close. The high electric whine of insects pressing in from every direction. The wet smell of rotten soil and green things breaking down in the heat. The suffocating warmth of air that never cools, never dries. Sitting on your skin like a second layer you can't peel off. And beneath all of it, the distant call of something large, moving unseen through the canopy above you. Rain hammers your shelter. Again and again. At 3 a.m., something is sniffing around the wreckage. 20 feet away, maybe less. You don't move. You barely breathe. Eventually, it leaves. At dawn, pale gold light filters through the canopy in thin shafts. Mist rises off the jungle floor in slow, ghostly columns. You're stiff, bitten everywhere, hollow with hunger. But you're alive. Day 2. Then, you hear it. An engine. Not the sound of something falling. The steady, deliberate thrum of a search aircraft. A small propeller plane, crossing left to right, maybe a mile out. Your body moves before your brain does. You grab the signal mirror and run. Crashing through undergrowth, tripping, catching yourself, running again. Toward the only clear gap in the canopy you know about, 30 feet across. Barely enough. You angle the mirror. You find the light. You flash 3 times. Pause 3 times. The international distress signal. You hold your breath. The plane doesn't turn. It keeps flying. You watch it cross the gap of sky above you. Steady. Unhurried. And then it disappears behind the tree line. The silence it leaves behind is total. Your arm drops. The mirror hangs loose in your fingers. And suddenly, the jungle feels a lot bigger. 9 million square kilometers of unbroken green, and you are one person. Standing in a 30-foot gap in the canopy. Invisible. Irrelevant. Swallowed whole. That small, stubborn flame burning in your chest since you opened your eyes in the wreckage. It flickers. This is the moment. Not the crash. Not the night terrors. Not the hunger or the pain or the things moving in the dark. This is the moment that breaks people, when rescue is right there, close enough to hear, and it looked straight through you. This is where most people stop making good decisions. But here's what I need you to understand. In 17-year-old girl named Julianne Kepke fell 2 miles from a disintegrating plane over the Peruvian Amazon. She was the only survivor, alone. Broken collarbone, a gash in her arm already crawling with maggots by day 3. No food, no shelter, no signal. She didn't wait. She found a stream. Her father, a biologist who'd spent years in the jungle, had told her once, "Streams lead to rivers. Rivers lead to people." She walked for 10 days. She didn't survive because she was brave. She survived because she kept making small decisions. Where to step, which bank to follow, whether to rest now or push 1 more hour. 1,000 tiny choices stacked on top of each other, even when every single one felt pointless. On day 10, a boat landing, a shelter, people. You look at the gap in the canopy where the plane disappeared. Then you look down, there, barely visible under the roots of a fallen tree, a stream, barely a trickle, running southeast. You look back at the wreckage. The jungle presses in from every side. Staying might kill you. Walking might too. You go back one last time. You build the biggest ground signal you can. A massive X, snapped branches and strips of bright orange seat fabric, visible from directly above. You leave it for the searchers. You take 1 breath, and then you walk. Day 4, the stream becomes a river. Day 5, the river is wide enough for boats. Day 6, gray dawn light, mist hanging low over the water. The jungle pressing in thick and silent on both sides of the bank. And then, a sound. A motor. You freeze. Listen, it gets louder. It is a motor. A wooden supply boat pushing upriver through the current. The crew sees you before you even shout. A ragged, hollow-eyed figure standing knee-deep at the bank, both arms raised toward the sky. They pull in. They lift you aboard. Somebody wraps a blanket around your shoulders. Somebody puts a water bottle in your hands. They speak in rapid Portuguese and you understand nothing, not a single word. But you understand everything. You are found. You are safe. Here's what I need you to take away from this, because it's more than a survival story. The Amazon kills experienced explorers. It kills soldiers. It kills guides who've spent decades in that jungle. It is one of the most hostile environments on the planet. And yet people walk out of it alive. Not because they're superhuman, because they think clearly when everything in them is screaming not to. The stop rule isn't just a jungle technique. It works in every crisis you will ever face. Stop before you react. Think before you move. Observe before you decide. Water before food. Signal before movement. Stay before you wander. And when the plane flies past without seeing you, when the worst possible thing happens at the worst possible moment, don't stop making small decisions. That's what survival actually looks like. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Wet, cold, exhausted. One more step, and then one more. Now here's the question I want you to sit with, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. When that search plane disappeared over the tree line, what would you have actually done? Not what you think you'd do. Not the brave answer. The real one. Would you have stayed at the crash site and trusted the ELT? Would you have followed the river immediately? Or would that have been the moment your mind broke? The moment you made a decision you couldn't come back from? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And I want to know, because the answer tells you something true about yourself. Something most people never find out until they're actually tested. If you want to see what happens when a survivor makes the wrong call, the moment fear wins, and the decisions stop being small, the video on screen right now goes exactly there. It doesn't end the same way this one did. Stay sharp. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next one.